All right, so it's been a few days since I've worked on this. The last thing I was looking at was interrupting execution, and I wanted to basically be able to stop the optimization process whenever and then restart it as needed. I was looking into doing that with this method here. It did require your shared array buffer, which required to set some security headers, which is fine. I could do that. I think there might be an easier way to do it, and I'm not going to work on this today in this video, but the other way to do it that I was looking into is you can actually call this terminate method on workers, and it will just, as far as I could tell, just stop. The thread will be stopped. So that's what I'm going to look into for that. Um, to make that work. If that doesn't work, then I'll come back to this and see if I can make it work like this. So that's that. I am going to work on the front end part a little bit. I'm going to transition away from the back end stuff as far as getting the worker, or not the worker, the solver to work, and transition a little bit more into, let me just make sure the sound is working. I actually don't hear it at all. Okay, I just had the video paused, or the stream paused. Okay, it's working. Um, yeah, I'm going to transition from working on the kind of backend stuff, I call it backend, but it's all happening in the browser, um, into more of the design and the front end stuff. And that's what I'm going to work on today. I probably won't work on a lot of it today, because we'll get to why in a minute. But before I get into that, I want to go over just kind of my plans and just talk about a couple things. So one thing I want to talk about was there's this issue with the translation app. It's not a big deal, but if you type in, or if you hit enter and there's nothing in there, it'll give you a random word. And this random is, I'm just locally testing with the local backend, local server, and then as well as using the local version of the front end. And if you do that and you search and the word comes up and you hit enter again, it'll actually allow the user to search for that term again. And the reason is because it's comparing the previous search. Um, so this is a search, it's comparing the search text to the previous search, and the search text is random, but the previous search is null because it never got set in the code. Whereas if you search for like a regular, a non-random thing, and normally this would not work, but backend, the testing backend just lets you put in any word. And then you hit enter, it actually matches up, those two match up, so it won't like send another request. So the reason for that is, and I'm actually not going to probably fix this in the deployed version. I just don't want to mess with that, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I just want to show like um, what a way to fix it, basically. And I'm looking back at this code, and to be honest, there's a lot of things I'm not that happy with. It's okay. It's just, I don't know, there's some things I might do differently, but I'm gonna move on to other projects and just let it be. One thing I'm not happy with really is the cold start on the Lambda, and I think that why that's so bad is because of the setting up the connection to the Google API. There might be some ways to avoid that and make that better, but I'm just gonna leave it as is. Move on to the other projects, maybe come back to it. But aside from that, there's some issues, or not issues, there's some decisions I made to how this code was laid out that I'm not that happy with. But anyways, maybe I'll come back to that in the future and get into that. But it works. It's not bad. It's fine. And anyways, so this is that testing code they added. The only difference from the code I had before and now, other than this testing code, is going to be this is what I had before, where it's setting the previous search. And that's fine. I could actually just leave it like that, but if it's random, I'm going to end up setting the previous search down here anyways, so I just decided to only do it once up here. So if it's not a random, or this is not true, then it will set the previous search just like it did before right here. If it is random, then what I had before was just this if statement, and then all it would do is set the random word, um, which again, I'm not sure if that's a great setup how I have it, but it sets this random word state. But I also wanted to set the previous search here. And I'm not going to think about it again right now, but just seeing these two things makes me think like, why do I have two separate states to do this? But maybe there's a good reason. I'm not going to look into the code right now. Uh, but yeah, but this will at least fix that issue. And again, I don't think it's a big issue, but yeah. So doing that now, if we come back to the browser and I hit enter, get a random, and I try it again, now you can see the previous state or previous search and the search text um, match up. And so it won't send the request again. So that's that. Oops. I'll get back to that in a second, what's showing on the screen. And then in here, I made one change. It does the exact same thing, but I thought it's a little bit cleaner. So in this handle search text change, um, I had this where it's setting the search text regardless, even if they type a character that's not allowed. And what it does is just replaces all those characters with an empty string. So it basically removes them and then sets the search text. But I think a better way to do it is just in here, if they enter a character is not allowed, you don't even update the search text. And if they do, I mean, if they enter allowed characters, then you do update it. Um, so yeah, I think that's just a slightly better approach. But that's the only change. This code up here, I was messing with the selection to keep it consistent. I guess some of this code, just use layout effect, use effect, whatever, based on the text change or whatever. One thing I was doing with that is like, so if you highlight this and you hit an invalid character, it goes to the end. I'm actually fine with that. Like some of that code I had in there will make it so it like skips the cursor to like there or whatever. But I don't think that even matters, to be honest. I'm fine with it going to the end. So that's all that code is. But but yeah, it's so the main changes were this, just a little bit better approach, I think, but not a big deal either way. And then just basically adding this. And again, I could have left this how it was, but yeah. So that's that. Um, Not a big deal, but yeah. So another thing too is this code I have, so my GitHub, I don't have much on there. And my plan was to kind of always put codes I'm working on up there. Maybe not right away, but like after I've had some time to work on it, put something up there, and then as I improve upon it, add to it. I could also take the approach of just putting a project up there immediately and then just always updating it. But either way, it's fine. Um, but yeah, so why I'm showing this is I'm planning to update this. I don't know when, but like the translation app, I'll at least throw up there now. As I get more organized with some other projects, I'll throw up the code on GitHub as well. But for now, probably leave it as is, and then throw up the translation app code pretty soon, I think. So that's that. I'm just gonna go through these tabs. There's some things I want to talk about. And again, today I am gonna be working on the front end um, for the DFS project. I just wanted to talk about a few things too. So let's see, Google TypeScript guide. So I'm gonna be using this for the front end for the DFS project. I'm gonna be using TypeScript. I think I've been learning about it I've gone through some video tutorials and stuff, and yeah, so we'll probably be using TypeScript. I might refer to this style guide. Um, and another thing that I'm learning that I'll probably use on the DFS thing, well, I'm gonna try to use it and see how it goes anyways, is Svelte instead of like React or just plain JavaScript. And so I'm learning that. One way I'm learning it is going through this tutorial, and that's it's been pretty good way to learn. I think it'll be even better way to learn to just work on a project, which is what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I haven't gotten through this. Where am I on this? I think I'm past bindings, like right here, I think. Somewhere around the middle of bindings actually, or maybe even life cycle. So gotten some practice, but a lot to go. I've also watched some video tutorials on that. So there's another thing they have. They're not, as far as I know, it's you have to just go to it manually. I haven't seen any links to it, but it's learn.svelte.dev. They do say up here it's a work in progress, and you should probably just use this tutorials if you want to learn. And that you can access from the main page. You click on tutorial. But the cool thing about this is, and they say it up here too, work in progress. Cool thing about this is if you're interested in, I think it's better laid out. Like these are a little bit easier to navigate over here maybe than over there. But also, they have Svelte Kit in here, which you can basically practice in the browser as well. And I think the way they do that is, from what I can tell, they're using these web containers, and that allows you to run Node.js basically in the browser. And that technology uses, as far as I can tell, WebAssembly. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And this is just the main page. I'll get back to that. So yeah, now I want to talk about a couple things before I get into working on the DFS stuff. So my plan going forward, I was going to just go from project to project, finish each one, and move on. I think what I'm going to do, at least I'm going to try it. It's probably isn't the best way to do it. It's probably better to just work on one project so you stay familiar with it, and then just keep working on it until you're done with it and move on, but which is what I'm doing now. But I think I want to mix it up, and I want to try every time I make a video or do a stream, it'll be on, I'm going to rotate these. So I'm going to work on one day, the next day I'll work on another one, next day I'll work on another one, next day I'll work on another one, and then I go back to the same one. So the projects I want to work on are some projects I kind of abandoned. So if you go look at my YouTube, I mean, 4 years ago I started working on this asteroids thing, and I didn't want to abandon it. I always had a plan to finish it. So that's one thing. And then another one was this card game, online multiplayer card game. So those two I wrote down here. That's these right here. The technologies I'm going to use on those. So I had already used TypeScript for this one, so I'll just continue using TypeScript. Maybe I'll um, use it a little bit better in the future. Well, when I start working on it, because I'm more familiar with it, we'll see. So that's just going to be plain TypeScript. That's it. It's going to use that's it. That's JavaScript, TypeScript, nothing else. And HTML5 canvas. Multiplayer card game. I was gonna do a different game that's kind of unique. I might do that, but just I might just end up doing spades, multiplayer spades. And the technology's there. I'm gonna use React. That's what I started with. Although this project I'll probably have to restart anyways. But yeah, I'm gonna use React. TypeScript. I think I'll probably use TypeScript instead of JavaScript for most things anyways going into the future. The one thing I might not use TypeScript for is all that stuff I did with the web workers for this DFS project. I'll probably just keep that in JavaScript and not use TypeScript. Let's see. So I'm going to use React on this, TypeScript. So this will give me some good practice with React and TypeScript because I've only really used TypeScript without, a view library, a framework. Um, so yeah. And then Firebase, I think the entire backend, I'll just stick to the plan that I was I think I had before, which is just use Firebase for everything. It's going to be for authentication. It's going to be for the chat within the game. It's going to be for the actual game's logic themselves. I think I'll just use all Firebase. So it'll be just TypeScript, Firebase, and React, and that'll be that. Might change my mind there. I'm not sure. DFS optimizer. I mean, that's what I'm working on now, today, and recently. And then this real-time stock scanner. I think this is going to be the most complex project. I think, and I put real time in quotes because it's not going to be exactly real time. It's going to update every minute for 1 minute bars or candles. And then it will also, it's going to have a small delay. There's no way I can make it exactly real time, I don't think. But the small delay is why I wrote optimization down here. So the idea of this optimization is I'm just going to figure out ways to make it as fast, that delay as small as possible. And I'll get more into that when I start working on that. So it's not going to be exactly real time, but it'll be as close as you can get. That matters. And the idea there is I want to be able for a user to they'll set some parameters and it will uh, basically scan, I don't know, like a large list of stocks, basically all the stocks in the market for those parameters and return back the ones that meet their filters, and it'll update in real time. That's the plan. We'll see how hard that is. I was originally kind of going back and forth on if I was going to do it for just an individual user with like WebAssembly or just in the browser with a JS library that I was looking at before. But the problem with that is to calculate these data points, you need data, right? And if it if it's going to do the thing that I want it to do, which is scan a bunch of stocks at once and then show you what which ones meet the filter requirements, then basically that'll require a ton of data that the user would have to load in. So it's not something that and even if you're doing a couple stocks, you need like a little bit of historical data to calculate these measure the what the filters are looking for. So so yeah, I figure that's probably not the best way to go about that. And I probably want to have like an actual single database or, single backend that each user can utilize. So yeah, that one's going to be really tough, I think, but it'll be interesting to work on. And then, so I do want to make it work as like process as fast as possible. There's going to be a lot of pre-calculations and optimizations I need to do that I've been thinking about, but anyways, I think I'm going to use Go on that. Two reasons. I don't know Go. It'll give me an opportunity to learn it. Go, I believe the raw performance is a little bit faster than Node, uh, so that'll help a little bit. Maybe if I find that's not fast enough, I'll start learning Rust or C++ or one of those other languages that gives good performance and see how that goes. But yeah, it's going to be a few different moving parts. I'm going to be using some sort of, I'm not sure how it's going to work exactly. If I'm going to do some sort of real-time subscription uh, type updates with WebSockets, I'll probably use AppSync on AWS or um, API Gateway, I think, has a WebSocket thing. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with that. I might just do a bunch of HTTP requests coming in from each user. Not sure yet. So something I got to look at, and yeah, that one's going to be tough. And then the last thing I'm going to work on, I'll throw this in. I'm not sure when, but my plan is to rotate these. So work on one each day that I'm going to work on and keep rotating them every time. And then I'll throw this in either part of that mix, leak code and advent of code, or I'll just throw it in whenever I feel like I want to break from this stuff, which it's not really a break because I'm pretty bad at this stuff, the leak code. So it's going to take a lot of brain power, a lot of studying to get good at this. Um, if you've never heard of the Advent of Code, it's like every day in December they have a new puzzle that's like a Leet Code puzzle basically. And they have a little story associated with them or whatever. But yeah, it's basically coding puzzles, and I might work on that this year. We'll see how good I am by the time that comes around. And you don't have to work on it in real time like every day, but and yeah, you could do it just whenever you want. I already talked about the repository. I need to update that. The last bonus project, well, I have two more projects I'm going to work on. One of them is the my portfolio site, which once I get a lot of these projects done, I'm going to work on that. I'll probably use Next.js for that, I think, um, with React. Not sure on that, but and then there's a bonus project that I will work on maybe, which involves fast ICA. Um, Algorithm, and that will probably use WebAssembly with Pyodide and Python in the browser, but we'll see. Maybe that will I'll use another fast ICA implementation or whatever. We'll see. So yeah, that's the plans for the future. Let's get back into what I'm working on. I already talked about this stuff. Let me close some of this stuff out. Leave that open, close this, close that, close, and I'll leave this open to remind myself. I want to probably update that, and then let's start a new Svelte project. So npm create vite latest template Svelte. So this is going to be, what do I want to call it? DFS Svelte, I guess, for now. Um, Go commands, paste that. Need to install the following packages. Okay. C my app. Should I name it? Whatever, it's fine. I could always change it later. npm install. npm run dev. Okay, let's go here. Cool. All right, let's pull up the code. I actually thought that I'm thinking of SvelteKit actually. I thought they would give you like a setup with TypeScript and stuff. You know what? I'm gonna do that. Let me close some of this stuff. Translate server. So let's go new folder, Svelte, git example or something. Okay. I kind of just want to get like their um how they set up TypeScript. Maybe it's in here actually. I should look in here. Let's open this up. So there's no TS config. Oh, they have JS config. Okay. Um, so what is JS config? Okay. Visual Studio Code's JavaScript support. Let me just do one. I'm just gonna do what I was just talking about. I've actually done this before, but I deleted my example, so I'll recreate it. So Svelte kit, which I probably won't use for this project. Okay. Yes, because in here they ask you, let's do using JavaScript with JS comments. All right, let's do that. No, no, no. Okay, and then do the same thing. TS, and then that, and do TypeScript. No, no, no. And then let's just look at the difference here, I guess. So here's a TS config, and here's a JS config. Okay. I guess it's okay to use the JS config. I don't know. Let me read a little bit more about that and see. And before I do that, let me open up the chat. I don't think anybody's here, but just in case somebody stops by. Okay. JS config. Alright, I'm just going to leave that as is for now. Probably want to change some of these settings, but I guess it's okay. I don't know. I'll have to read about that. Okay, so and then there's a lib folder. Not sure why. Yeah, well, okay. So I'm gonna make a couple components. Probably, again, I'm not that familiar with Svelte. I'm still learning it, so. So the one thing I'm gonna have for sure is a table. So the table will have like, let me see. The table will have like um, all the information for each player for that slate. So it'll have like the player name. I think it won't have that much information, but it'll definitely have player name. It'll have definitely their projected fantasy points. That's two columns. Um, I'll probably just work with those for now, but yeah, okay. So table, I'm gonna assume it has a script for now. I'm gonna assume that there's some sort of a div for now that has a table and then has some styles. Okay, so that's that. I'm gonna go back to main.js and let's just get rid of all this. We'll throw it directly in a div with no class for now. I'll throw it in here. Table. Okay, now I have to import it. So import table, get rid of the Svelte logo, import table from lib table. Okay, let's just create some T head, T body, and table row. We'll create some test data for now. Table row, table data, test. For now, let's do row 1, column 1, row 1, column 2. Let's do one more row. Row 2, column 1 and 2. All right, so we have a table component, some test data, T head. I'll throw table head. Actually, how do you do T head? Is it just, let me look, PH, HTML, T, oh, is that right? It's a table row and then, okay. So it's basically in place of table data, column 1, well, let's do player. Let's do some sort of realistic information. Let me see this actually. So table head month savings. Okay, so you just have one row, and then you throw that inside, and then we'll do player, and then projection, projected. Okay, let's get rid of these styles for now, and yeah, let's try it, see how it looks now. Okay, we have a table. Let's give it a border. So how do you do that again? Table border, table borders. Okay, let's take these styles and throw them in the table component. And what's nice about Svelte, if I had a table somewhere else, I could style that differently without having to give it a specific class because the styles are scoped to each component. All right, let's see how that looks. Okay, start anyways. And then there's another thing I wanted to work on too, which was CSV. I wanted to allow the user to upload a CSV and it would populate the table. I think what I'm going to do today is two things. Just to get a little bit of practice with Svelte, I'm going to do something with this table. I guess I'll just give it some data. Let data equals an array. I'm not sure how this data will be structured in the future, but let's just give it some values. So I'll say player is, let's see, I'll do Tom Brady, and then, oh, position, that's another thing. Position is QB, and then projected, I'll just say that for now. P, and this could actually just be an array of arrays because we don't, yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to structure the data yet, but for now, let's do that. Projected FP will be, I don't know, 40 or something. All right, so let's do another player. Team will be another thing as well. So let's do a wide receiver. Let's do. I don't know how to spell it. Stefan Diggs? Is that how you spell his name? It's not a big deal, but let's just look. No, it's one F. Okay, so one F. Wide receiver projected. We'll do. It's to differentiate. We'll do 50. Okay. Tom Brady, Stefan Diggs. Okay. Good. We have two. We have some data, and then to be able to show the data in Svelte, they have this each syntax within the HTML template. So let's see. So let me think about this. That would go here. So I'm going to do each data as player, I guess. Or we'll call it row. And then at the end, gotta get rid of this each. You also want a condition, I think you can put it here, else. So this condition will be, is that right? So this condition will be like no data. That's actually not gonna work, I don't think. Well, it'll be like a single row in the table, right? Let's just do this. Table row, table row, table. I'm not sure how this is gonna work exactly, but I want to test out this else. So this else is going to show if there's nothing in the data. Okay, so for each data as a row, we're going to create a row. So we can get rid of this. And then the row will have so player, let's do one more, let's do position. By the way, the styling on this by default is I'm not talking about the table styling, but like how it's all centered in the screen and like that. That's inside of this like global CSS file, I think. Um, yeah. So that applies to everything. Those are not scoped. Anyways. All right. So table data, table row. I wonder if you should indent this. Is that the no? Probably not. Is there a formatter on this? I don't necessarily like that. I like more spaces, but we'll leave it like that for now. Anyways, okay, so table row, table data. So we need three columns of data for each. So this will be row dot player. Let's try and see if this works. Row dot player, row dot position, and row dot projected FT. Let's see if this works. Cool. So that's a start. Getting some data. Let me try no data, see how that works. So no data, yeah, it's only showing up there. So that you could actually use an if. So instead of the table, we could have like an if statement, which is like the same syntax or very similar. If, actually I'm gonna get rid of this else. So if data dot length, so if it has a length that's greater than 0, or no, it's data, not data dot length, then we'll show this stuff here. which will not be a table row. It'll be just a div, no data, and then else, and else that, and then we want to close this off afterwards. That will be all the way down here. Something like that. I think that'll work. So no data. If we remove it completely, is it down? How about this? We do that. Cannot find named data. All right. Yeah, it should be at least defined. That's true. Okay. Well, what if it's like let data? Let's comment this out and do let data. So it's just if it's defined or declared, but it's not, but it's undefined basically. Let's see what this does. So no data. Okay. Bring this back in. Should also say no data. Okay, perfect. And then bring the actual data back in. And it should say the data, if I like get rid of one of the rows. Okay, it only shows one. If I bring that back, it shows two. Right. Okay, so that's just a very, very basic setup. Um, and yeah, so let's stick with that for now. Obviously, there's gonna be a lot of changes there. Let's start anyways. And then next thing I wanted to do was let's see. We could introduce some state. Let's just do that right now. So let edit equals false. Um, so let's do like this. So each cell is going to be, actually, here's what I could do. Instead of, well, I could do an input, I think. Input, wait, no. So an input value equals row.player. Let me see what this does. So it makes it editable. And then you could do like read only. Like there's a few ways to do this. You could have these be inputs that you toggle the read only um, attribute and then do some styling as well, conditional styling. Or you can actually, like I don't want to have this border or anything like that. So I can do that. Or um, and that read only would be toggled by this edit state or editing or phase editing, something like that. And I could just make them all. Actually, is there a reason to have a mode where it's not editable? Yeah, I might want that. But that's one way. The other way would be to have the same state show in an input if it's editable and in a like a div or a span or whatever. Let's do a span if it's not editable. Let's get rid of this for just a second. So it'll show the same thing, but yeah. So it's a couple different ways to think about that. I'm not sure I'm going to do that right now, but we'll see. Either way, if I wanted them editable, we'll have to use inputs, I believe. Another approach is you don't even need a table at all. You can just lay out something that's not a table, like a bunch of divs, nested divs, but I think it's better to use a table, especially since it is a table. Okay, next thing is I want to try to get let me see something really quick actually. So let edit equals false, edit equals test. So we do have some TypeScript stuff going on here. So if I did, where's strict? Is strict turned on? Is there such a thing in here? Not really sure. I need to look at how to use TypeScript with Svelte. Like that is a check, right? That you wouldn't see in regular JavaScript, but I'm not sure if I'm actually using TypeScript right now. How could I test that? I could do like let edit. I don't know. I'm pretty sure JavaScript does not have the concept of tuples, tuples, however you say that, equals. Um, oh yeah, it also doesn't have like types, right? So I could do something even simpler. So string or type annotations equals 10. TypeScript annotations can only be used in TypeScript files. Okay, interesting. So you don't need to do this, these annotations, especially for variables like this, because they're inferred, the types are inferred. But I just want to test if this is something I could do with TypeScript. Let's try just a tuple. So, string number, and then we'll do 10, no, 10, 10. So what does this say? Type annotations can only be used in TypeScript files. Same thing. All right, I'll have to look into that, and I'll have to read this. Where is it? This. See what's exactly going on with JS config. Maybe convert it to a TS config. Anyways, moving on. So next thing I want to do is CSV uploads. So file, read, API JS, I think is what I want. File reader object lets web applications asynchronously read the contents of files stored on a user's computer. Okay. Pretty sure this is what I want. Let's go input type is file. So let's throw that in just app. Let's get rid of this table for now. Input type is file. All right, let's see what that looks like. Choose file. Okay, let's go to desktop. Let's just make a test file. So test projections, projections.csv. Let's edit it. Let's go layer projected, or no, let's go position projected. Next row, I'll use the same players, Tom, Brady, QB, 40, I think it was. And then, do these all have to be in quotes? I don't think so. Just the commas, right? Stefan, Diggs, wide receiver, 50. Okay. Choose a file, desktop, projections. Okay. So that's a start. File reader. File reader can only access contents of files that the user has explicitly selected, or drag and drop. Drag and drop will be a nice thing to implement, so I'm not going to do that right now, but come back to that. File reader. This feature is available in web workers. Okay. So here's some examples. Using the file API, web content can ask the user to select local files and then read the contents. Exactly what I'm trying to do. I don't care about multiple. Maybe. At least for right now, it'll just be a single file. Accessing the first selected file using class called selector. On selected file, document get out ID. Accessing file on a change event. Okay. This is probably what I want. So I'm going to copy this in here. Where's my project? Svelte. Let's do another file component, I guess. No, let's just do it here. So let's copy this in here. Okay, input element. Okay, I don't need this. And then the change, I could just do an on change equals handle files, we'll say. Let's do console.log file list. Let's get rid of that. Function handle files on change handle files. It's going to call this function here. It's going to get the files and it'll log it to the console. So let's see how that works. File list, projections, cool. All right, so next step will just be to get the data out of that. So files list, so let's go back to getting information about selected files. So I definitely want to check the length and probably the file type as well. Make sure it's a CSV. Maybe do some size checks. But for now, since I'm not uploading anything to a server, it's not that big of a deal. If they, I don't have to throw that many checks in there. And even regardless, these checks need to happen on the front end and the back end if that's what I was going to do. But it's all happening in the user's browser, so I don't really care too much if they try to do something weird. But yeah, I'll do some basic checks on the file type and the size. I'm going to skip over that for now. Using hidden file payments, using click. Okay, nice. This is something I'm going to do. I'm going to skip over that for now. All I'm going to do right now is just try to output the contents of the file into the console. So then I can access it, update the table, stuff like that. And then that'll probably be it for this video, this stream. And then I'll probably go back to learning Svelte a little bit more. And then the next stream, I'll probably be working on one of the other projects I showed earlier. And then, like I said, rotate them. All right, showing thumbnails. Don't care about that right now. Create object URL. I think the object URL is what I need. File reader starts reading the contents of the specified blob once finished. Okay, this is one thing I need to do. File reader result. Okay, so let's read this. File reader object lets web applications asynchronously read the contents of files. May be obtained from a file list object. A file list object. Okay. All right. Newly constructed file reader. Read its text. Okay. So let's make a file reader. This probably should be in a separate component or something, but let's make it up here. Content. Cannot find name content, right? Files. So I think when they say dot files, it's referring to um, content dot inner text. So we're just gonna say let file content for now is an empty string reader. So file content equals reader dot result. Reader reads text file. If file. So file content, what does it say? String array buffer is not assignable to type string. Okay. Okay. Add event listener load. This will then display a text file. Okay. Result to string. What's value of? Do to string. We know to string returns a string, so might not be what I'm looking for, but if file read its text. So what is that file it's referring to? That is referring to, I think we should move this reader down here. A file list 0. Is that right? What do we have over here? Not sure. File content. And then console.log file content. Let's actually throw this on the page, maybe. I'm gonna pre-div, pre, and file. We don't need to put that on the next line, file content. Let's do test. What do we have now? So test is there. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, cool. So reader, so you create a reader, you add an event listener that when, what is load actually? Let me look at this. Events. All right, load fired when a read has completed successfully. Okay. So load, so the file gets read as text, and it reads the first file on the file list. That's text, and this event happens after that finishes, and it will take the result as a string, and then set it to this file content variable that we have here, and then that will have been updated, so it'll display on the page. Try that again. Okay. So it's one step, obviously a lot more to go. Yeah, it's something. We're getting the CSV data. That can be read in just by splitting on the commas. I might use a library, CSV library, to work with it a little bit easier without doing a bunch of extra work. We'll see. Yeah, so not much done today, but I got to start. I set up a Svelte project. I found out that I need to figure out what's going on with JS config, how to actually use TypeScript in Svelte. So that's stuff I need to look into. Um, actually, I'm gonna go through some of this stuff too and try to figure out what's going on here. See if there's anything I need to know. Um, main.js, app is new app, target. So yeah, this I believe is like an index.js and a React app that's putting your app component in the DOM basically. So if we go to where's HTML? Index HTML, we should see app, right? Yeah. So that's where your Svelte project goes right there. Okay. Cool. So we got a small setup. What else do we do? We did a basic setup of this table, take in some data, display it with the if and the each blocks. And these components might be broken down further. I'm sure this file reader will be in its own component. See how that works. We use a change handler to read the file content. So we did a little bit. Not a ton, but a little bit. Got to start. Next time I'll just keep working on the table. I'll have to think about exactly how I want it to work. It's not going to be that complicated. Usually we'll um, be able to upload a CSV, it'll populate the table, they'll be able to edit the table, as I was talking about earlier. And then there'll be like a button to optimize and create lineups. So that's the plan. It's not going to be too complicated. Um, yeah, I want to make it as like something I don't have to do too much maintenance on in the future. So probably not going to have, I'm probably not going to have it to where it like has all the data populated for each week or anything like that already. I think I'll just let the user upload their own data and then work with it that way. I think that'll be the best approach. Um, yeah, some stuff I got to think about though. All right, well, I know I talked a little bit about some of my other stuff in this video, but I just wanted to give kind of an update of my plans and how I'm gonna go about doing this different project in the future. So thanks for watching. See you next time.